So in your notes here, I saw that you left to focus on. What do I need to focus on to become an awesome healer? Love that question. And how can I tap into knowledge that I've learned from other lifetimes? Does that sound correct?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So before we hop into those areas, I did go into your energy field just to see kind of what was going on, because I know that we had talked about previously of having some difficulties with channeling or just seeing and hearing things with clarity and discernment. And so I went and did, like a check in there. And so
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you what came up because that's going to help open up new levels of awareness for
Okay.
you and ability to see and hear with more precision.
Okay.
So, and I have a lot of notes here from your higher self, so I'm gonna be looking at those. Transcribe
Okay.
this to you, okay? Actually, do you mind if I light this incense really quick?
Sure.
Okay. My other one went ahead and went out. Okay, so when I went into your energy field, I saw a bat, but this bat had a badger head. Do you know what a badger is? Like the animal?
Yeah.
Okay, which
Mhm.
I thought was really interesting because I've never really had an animal show up like that before, where it was like two different ones, unless it's like, obviously like a centaur or something. I said,
Yeah.
oh, interesting. I said, what do these two things have to do with each other? So bats obviously have sonar location or echolocation, I think it is. And badgers, dig through the dirt. And so I said, oh, you're here to help me find something. But it's not just
Oh.
me finding something, it was also indicative of you having a finding archetype. This is where we are constantly seeking things. That's knowledge, wisdom, new understandings. Those types of archetypes are really good as energy healers for other people because they're kind of like detectives of tell me what's going on and I will figure out, the best tools and resources to give to you. That's probably why you were drawn to the modality that you're currently utilizing or that you want to strengthen with. I can't remember the name of it, but it's working with somebody with their cerebellum.
Yeah. Biodynamic cranial sacral.
Yes. Okay. Which there's something underneath there that we're going to talk about, a different gift. But that makes sense because we're having to really find the unseen
Yeah.
within others. Okay. So after I spoke to the bat badger, I was brought to the ocean and there was this enormous turtle that was in the ocean and I got on its back, kind of like a oh, I don't know what they're called, like wave boards. And so I was swimming with him or standing on him while he was swimming. Turtles are representative of wisdom. Sometimes slow and steady wins the race. And so your higher self wanted to remind you that,
Oh,
growth comes over time,
it's
even though we
been
want it
pretty
like
slow.
right now. Okay. So I said, where are we going? And I asked the turtle, and he said, we're going to the Galapagos Islands. I said,
Oh.
oh, okay, interesting. I've never been there before in the ethers. And so when we got to the island, I was saying, well, why are we here? The island is representative of uniqueness because there's a whole bunch of animals that are only live on that island. It's also representative of evolution because that's where Charles Darwin uh, traversed during his lifetime and cultivated a lot of his understandings and the collective consciousness. And so when I got off, I said, okay, thank you so much for bringing me here. And I said, dang, I wish I had a map because I wasn't really sure why I was there or what I was doing. And this map showed up in my hands. And when I looked at the map, it was a map of genomes. So do you have any understandings of what genomes are? Okay, so I had to look it up and Google to get the exact definition for you. So it's a complete set of DNA or genetic material in an organism.
Okay.
So what your higher self was telling me, and we'll get into this a little bit later, you have the ability to astral project yourself into somebody's DNA sequencing.
Oh.
Yes. I think you're the
Well,
only second person maybe I've seen that has that gift before. And so that's why the uniqueness was coming up because, everybody's DNA sequencing is very different from one another. And that's why Charles Darwin was coming up as well in the Galapagos Islands. Yes. And so that kind of goes hand in hand with the modality that you already have, because you could take that to a whole different level of quantum connection, right? Now, I was asking your higher self, can we talk about why she's feeling blocked or these impediments are in her way? And she said yes. So after I got off of the island, I was kind of like in this 0 point, kind of like what we would call like the void. It's just like this blank space. And I was standing looking out onto the darkness, and there was a hall of mirrors behind me, almost like you would be in a fun house. Every time that I tried to turn around to look at the mirrors, it kept on moving with me, so I couldn't look at it with my face. And at this point, I'm you. I'm your energy body. Okay, I had POV this experience, so I could feel the frustration and the struggle of like, it's right there. I know it is, but I can't grasp it. Okay. So I took a breath and I said, what do I need to do here? And instead of moving my physical body, me, Sage, I turned my astral body instead and popped outside of my back so I could see the mirrors because you were still stuck. But because I know how to do it, I, turned around. So
Okay.
halls of mirrors can mean a lot of different things. Sometimes those are representative of people's Akashic records into different timelines. Sometimes it is portals into different dimensional planes. Sometimes it is portals into your subconscious. For you, this was portals into your subconscious. So there was like 5 doors, or there weren't doors, they were like mirrors, but 5 mirrors that were in front of me. And I said, okay, is there anyone that wants to come out and talk to me from her past? I said, I'm here, available. Your 4-year-old came out of one of the mirrors, and I was like, hey, I was introducing myself, telling her who I was and why I was there. And I said, do you want to tell me about these impediments? And she said, yes. And I said, well, let's go somewhere that's fun, because where we were at, it was not
So
really, yeah, I mean, it wasn't dangerous or scary or anything. It was just like blase. And I went to go take her hand, and I showed her a portal door that I had created where we were going to go somewhere. It was like really light and airy and fun. And she was like, I can't go with strangers. And I said, that's great. I said, I like that. Okay. I said, okay, let me do this. And I called your higher self in. And when she saw her, she was like, oh, that's your friend. And I was like, yeah. And she said, okay. So she followed me into the portal, and we came out in this really beautiful pasture, just like really luscious greenery and like apple trees, real sunny, lovely place. And your higher self said that we really need to work on strengthening our imagination. Like, yeah. Okay. Because connecting to these things that are unseen requires a lot of trust and faith in self. And when I was standing there really frustrated as you trying to see these mirrors behind myself, there's a lot of doubt in our senses that are not physical. Sometimes there's a gap in between where we are at right now in our human existence. It's a little more grounded in 3D. And then there's astral plane over here. Well, there's imagination in the middle of that. And if we're having a hard time even being in imagination over here, then how much harder is it going to be to believe things that are over here in the astral and the etheric realms? Like you being able to astral project yourself into somebody's DNA sequencing and believing what you're doing. And, right. That takes a lot of trust and faith in self. Okay. So those mirrors, the 5 of them, your higher self said that those were points in your history where you had something happen that made you doubt your intuition. Like major turning points.
as early as 4?
Yes. And I'm going to tell you what happened because she showed me the memory. But the other 4, that's going to take some homework and deep diving on your end of where in my life was I trusting myself and then I kind of fell flat on my face, or it didn't pan out like I thought it was going to, even though I followed my quote unquote intuition. And your higher self wants to have you kind of look at it a different perspective of sometimes our intuition leads us somewhere where we don't think that it worked out how it was supposed to, but then it ended up did. If you look like years back, you're like, oh yeah, it kind of had to happen that way. Maybe my intuition was spot on, but it just didn't work how my human brain thought it was supposed to. And then other times, what we think is intuition is not. it is our anxiety and our fear that we are following, and we are quantifying it as our intuition. It's actually fight or flight, and it's not coming from the same place of somewhere that makes us feel really good and expansive. We're actually making those choices from constriction and feeling like we're backed into a corner, but we label it as intuition, but it's really our anxiety.
Okay.
So she wants you to kind of dig back into your history and find where those points were and do some diving into that if those circumstances that she just mentioned was what was actually going on there.
Okay.
Questions about that?
Well, the weird thing is I didn't really know about my intuition until I was probably, I don't know, in my late 30s, early 40s. So I was told that something happened when I was 11 and I shut it off. But so I have a kind of, okay, something happened at 11, but even the last 6-7 years, I still don't know what that was. And then I talked to you about an incident with being taken, which I think I was 7 or 8. So I'm assuming that was another time. But I mean, did my higher self, am I supposed to figure out what age it happened and then kind of do the history, go back in history from there?
Yeah, these things aren't necessarily the one that I'm going to tell you about at 4 is more having to do with astral etherical things. The other ones that she was talking about are circumstances that more happened in your like human life, if we can quantitate it like that. Like, oh, I thought I was supposed to be with this boyfriend and then something awful happened, or oh, I thought I was supposed to go to this event and then something, awful happened. It's like this voice is kind of like ruminating in the back of our head saying like, hey, go do this, or hey, don't go do this. And even though we're not always conscientiously aware that's our intuition, because you're an energy healer and you are tapped in and you are not hypersensitive, but you're a very sensitive person. If I think back over all the years of my life, there was always like a voice there that's trying to like lead and guide me on some type of capacity in those nudges that we feel. Now I'm a lot more in tune to them, but they were always there. But those voices are not always intuition. Sometimes that's your ego, and sometimes that's your central nervous system freaking out and you being in fight or flight and you making a decision thinking that that voice is trying to lead you somewhere positive.
I mean, I can think about a lot more times of being in fight or flight than knowing in my head, oh, I shouldn't do this, or this is my intuition.
Yeah. So maybe combing through those experiences and saying, did that fear and that constrictiveness and the fight or flight push me into making some type of decision that I later on regretted? And why did I listen to that voice? Because your intuition is going to speak to you in a completely different facet. And I think that you're kind of teetering on, well, like because that's trauma. There's trauma in our body, and maybe your central nervous system or those memories in your cells and DNA are saying you can't trust that because of XYZ back here. But you, as the energy healer practitioner, higher self, that's where we have to do some explaining to our energy body of those are not the same things. And let me explain to you why. We probably did not have the tools and resources to be able to navigate those situations with the way that we wanted to. But now that we do, I would not make those same decisions now. So we need to really differentiate between what is a fear-based decision and what is a decision based in confidence and love.
Okay.
I think that will help you with being a little bit more decisive with yourself and decisive with reality as well, instead of kind of teetering all the time of like, oh, is this right? Is it not right?
Well, now being older, I know when my higher self is talking to me. Like I can hear in my head or feel it in my body. But back then, I wasn't aware of those things.
Sure. That is still unresolved trauma in your body, however.
Okay.
because you have all these younger facets of yourself that are in there screaming, don't do that. We have messed up in the past. You cannot trust that voice.
Oh, okay, I
Does
see.
that make sense? Like
Okay,
she's faltered before. She has led us astray. And what
okay,
we have to explain to that girl, that was not her. That was our own trauma. That was
okay,
fear. That was anxiety. That was fight or flight. Notice how we make completely different choices now because we can actually hear our higher self and we're not listening through all the filter lenses and the distortions. That's
okay,
why she wants you to comb back through those memories and have that explanation with yourself of like, oh, yeah, that wasn't our higher self talking to us. That was fear.
okay.
That's where some of the self doubt is coming from.
So I can't really move forward until those things are
I would say you
gone.
could move forward. You're still. I
Oh,
mean, all of us have things that can be continuously healed, right? Like
oh,
there's things that I am continuing to work on, and I channel really well. So it's not that it's going to block or impede you, but it is going to take some of the filter lenses and the distortions off to make it easier.
okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So when I was in the field with your 4-year-old, I let me see. Let me get my notes here. Okay. So sitting with her and I said, can I show you something? And she said, yes. So I created this memory ball of all of my experiences with channeling and I handed it to her. And she said, oh, you used to be blocked as well. You used to be cut off from your magic. You couldn't channel either and do all these different things. And I was like, yeah. And she said, you too? I was like, yeah, girl, it used to be me as well. Okay. So it's not just you. So that made her feel a lot more empowered and confident of like, okay, well, if you can do all this stuff and you were blocked as well and blocked, but struggling in those areas. And so she was having a very difficult time communicating to me why she was nervous about spiritual gifts and astral traveling and things of that nature. And I said, okay, sometimes it's easier if you just show me or express to me how you're feeling. I said, let's try this. And so we sat in front of one another, like crisscross applesauce. And I told her to give me her hands, and she put them in my hands. And I saw a snowman, and we
Okay.
just sat with that for a long time. I said, did the snowman scare you? What was happening? And it took me a second to figure out. And your higher self was like, no, you need to go deeper energetically, like underneath the snowman. And so when I went under, I saw a memory of you, and she was at 4 and you were in this like snowstorm, kind of like in the tundra, and you were lost and you were freaking out and like crying, and you were just by yourself. And I ran up to her and I was like, hey, I've got you. I said, are you lost? And she was like, yes. And so I picked her up, and as soon as I did, we snapped back into the field with one another. And I said, oh, okay. So when you were 4 years old, either while you were sleeping or maybe when you were awake, there's different ways you can do this. You astral projected out of your body
Mm-hmm.
into a different location, like in the tundra or the Antarctic or something. And then you got lost and you had no idea how to get back and you thought you were going to be there forever. You eventually got back in your body. You probably either woke up or, however you got back in yourself. Okay, but she was so scared. And when we got back into the field, she was just like crying. And I was like, you're safe. I was like, I've got you. We're okay. I was like, that was a memory that we just experienced. That's not happening right now. And so I spent some time helping her, like regulate. And I told her, I said, this is why I do the work that I do, because people need to learn how to wield their magic. I said there are so many parents out here that have no idea about any of these things, and then they have little kids out here that can see into different dimensions or astral travel or all these different things, and it scares them so bad, and they have nobody to talk to about it. Especially if there's like religious programming, there's societal programming, cultural programming. And I told her, I was like, that's just what happened to you. You are a very tapped in person and you had gifts and you didn't know how to use them. I said, that's why we're going to teach people about how to use their magic. So I showed her another memory ball of all of the astral travels that I have been on in this incarnation. And I showed her I have never gotten lost one time. I have always been able to get back to my body. Okay. The reason I was showing her that was I said, you were by yourself and you had no one to help you. I said, that's not the case anymore. I said, you have your higher self now and y'all are connected. And what I meant by that was you and your higher self. She has like a whole team of people. I said, you never have to go on one of those travels alone ever again. I said, that's what we're going to be talking about in the session today. Okay. So that's when your higher self came forward and she held her hand and she said, I'll always be with you. You don't have to worry about getting stuck like that. So let's see. I held up a necklace and I said, what do you want your pendant to look like? So like a little charm on the bottom of it. And she said, a fairy. I think it's because she was looking at me. Okay. So I made her necklace with a fairy pendant and I said, I want you to wear this and I want you to keep it on for as long as you want to keep it on, right? I'm not going to force her to wear it, but I said, keep it on. I said, if you ever get lost in the future again, I want you to grab it and I want you to wish that Sage is there and I will meet you wherever you're at. And she was like, what? And I said, yeah. I said, do you trust me? And she said, yes. And I said, okay. And I blipped out of the field and she was by herself and she wished me back and I immediately showed back up and she was like, oh, it worked. And I said, yeah. I said, you can not only call me, you can call your higher self. I said, she will show up. And then we did the same exercise. And then she felt a lot more confident and safe. Right?
Good.
That has been one of your energy body's biggest fears of getting lost in the astral, in the etheric realms, because that trauma has been with you for a very long time since childhood. And that would have been affecting your ability to astral project into people's DNA and see their strands as well. Because when I asked her about it initially, she said, I'm not going to get stuck in somebody's body. And I said, okay, girl. I said, I get it. Okay, I wouldn't want to do that either. Okay. What comes up when I tell you all of these things?
Well, I know, I mean, obviously I don't remember that happening consciously.
I think you were asleep. I honestly think you were asleep and like taken out of your body.
But I know that I've been trying very hard for 6 years. And I have astral projected a couple of times, but literally as soon as I was like allowed to do it, it was like gone. Like I could do it like 3 or 4 times and then it stopped. I would go back to the same place and like, cause I would go to this door and then something different would always be behind the door. But I went there like 4 times and then like the 5th time, there was nothing. The door was there, but I couldn't open it.
It's probably your central nervous system kicking on as well, because, you know, when we hold trauma in our body like that and we're kind of in a loop, it'll just react in the same way to the same stimuli. And so it's like we can only go so far because what if we're not able to get back? And that would also pertain to you trying to access different timeline versions of yourself, because I could see a propensity where she would say, I'm not getting stuck in that timeline.
Oh.
Because when you learn how to connect with different incarnations, there's a couple different ways that you can do it. You can be like a past life regressionist with other people or yourself, where you're kind of just reading the story about what has happened. It's almost like you're reading an autobiography about somebody, or I guess not a biography about somebody. Anyway, then there's another way that I do it where I'm actually timeline jumping into that space and I'm talking to that incarnation in real time through a conversation, just like I did with your inner child. That is where we can get stuck.
Okay.
You wouldn't actually get stuck, but that's a perceived fear.
Okay.
Okay. Because she did. And that's what I was explaining to her too. I said, you weren't permanently stuck there though. You got back. You snapped back into your body. Okay. So even in that circumstance. So what questions do you have about this portion here?
I don't know. It's a lot of information.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess I don't really have any immediate questions.
I would, next time that you conscientiously try and astral project or go somewhere in meditation, do a check-in reminder with that version of yourself, that 4-year-old, and say like, hey, like even if you don't see her, like she can hear you.
Okay.
Say, hey, do you remember the necklace that you received? Just remember, you always have that. If you need to call me, excuse me, you need to call Sage, you need to call our higher self, we will always meet you.
Okay.
Sometimes you know how kids, you have kids, right?
Yep. I got
Yeah.
6.
Okay. Okay. You know, sometimes they know things, but they just like need a little check-in reminder to help ground them and prepare them. That's going to be really beneficial here. Of like, no, we can just touch our necklace. That's fine.
Okay.
You could even wear a necklace on your necklace to help her feel more safe and like connected to you and grounded. Of like, no, remember, we've got our necklace here. Okay. Yes. Okay, so let's get into your question. What do I need to focus on to become an awesome healer? What do we mean by that?
Well, just because I've been stuck for so long, the healing part is kind of newer. I've been studying this for a year and I still have a year to go. So I'm really just diving into it. So I was kind of looking for, there's so much that you can focus on, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, you know, even just within the body. So I just wondered if there was certain things I should be focusing on.
What is it exactly that we want to be doing?
Well, so the
And not
work,
forever. Not, let me say
yeah.
that before I get, because there are so many different segues and paths. So we can't predict like super far out because there might be something along the way that you're like, oh, let me detour over here. So what do we want to be able to do for this next chapter, this next leg that we're on?
Well, I guess I want to be able to, so the healing is really people's shadow work.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm energetically looking at their body and I'm finding the places where trauma is.
Okay.
And then I'm not necessarily trying to heal it. I'm just making space for it if it is ready to be brought forward, I guess. Um, but I'm even having trouble right now perceiving those places. Um, so I'm just kind of looking for some guidance as to how I can do things better or notice things, or I mean, I don't really know if that has anything to do with being blocked. Um, but I've been told I've been doing healings for many lifetimes. So that's why I also asked, well, how do you remember what you did in the past? Can I bring
Mm-hmm.
any of that forward to help?
Yes, I will say that if we are having some difficulties trusting ourselves in this incarnation, it's going to be more difficult to to trust ourselves with information that's coming forward from other incarnations.
Well, I kind of need like, it's almost like once I'm shown once and I kind of know I got it, then I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like learning something new. Like I question everything and I'm like,
Right.
well, do I do it this way? Do I do it that way? There's different ways to do things. So like I just feel like if, like channeling, for instance, if someone could just show me how to channel once and then I had it, then I can work on it. You know what I mean? I just feel like I just need that one time of help that then I can do it on my own. You know what I mean? That gives me enough confidence to figure it out.
I do hear what you're saying. I will say that you have a very unique flavor of magic, and nobody is going to be able to show you exactly how to do it. Just
What
like
is that?
I have a very unique flavor of magic that I had to teach myself. how to do my own flavor of magic because there's nobody else that could teach me how to do it. I had to kind of hodgepodge it together and learn about a lot of different things and piecemeal it all together. And it works for me a lot different than it does other people. And everybody is very unique and individual, but there are some healers that pull from multitudes of modalities that don't just have one linear plane way of doing things because you do it on multidimensional layers, just like you. For example, you can help people with their physical trauma that they're holding in their body, while at the same time probably working on like synapses and things up here with the modality you're getting into. And then on a quantum level, we can get up in people's DNA sequencing. Like that's multitudes of layers. And there's not a whole lot of information about astral projecting into people's DNA sequencing. Okay. So
Okay.
we're gonna have to kind of hodgepodge it together. Like I can give you some tips and tricks and tools on how to do that. But your flavor of magic is going to take an immense amount of self-trust and belief in yourself because there is no hyper specific guideline for the ways that you are going to be doing these things. Now we're going to get into it. I'm going to help you with some things. Okay.
Okay.
But like the way that I do things, I've never seen anybody do it.
No.
And I had to teach myself how to do them.
But there is a reason why I was drawn to you. So I believe that you can help me. And I need at least the basics, like,
yeah, we're going to talk about the basics.
Okay.
Okay. Yes. Okay. All right. So let's start 101 here.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Are you doing practice sessions with people?
Yes.
Okay. Who are you practicing with?
Well, people that I don't really know.
Where are you finding the people?
Well, I just found a space that will let me use for free, and it's like a community center type thing. So right now I'm practicing on people that are there.
Are these persons woo-woo? Or are these people more like 3D healthcare situational?
No. They're no. So far it's like two main ladies. One lady it is very spiritual, like she knows all the stuff. She meditates regularly, all that. The other lady is very in tune with her body and her intuition, and she was a massage therapist for 20 years. She's retired. She's more in tune with herself than I'm in with myself. So, it's not like they're not just people off the street that I would have to explain every little
right, because they're going to be harder to read as well,
yeah,
because they have a lot more filter lenses and distortions and trauma that you're having to sift through with your quantum eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's real heavy and dense and harder to sift through, right? So we need to be finding practice partners that, there's no one person that's better than the other. It's just what's easier to read.
Easier. Okay. Yeah. So far it's just the people in my class that are learning everything I am, and then these two ladies so far.
Great. Okay. Now, when you are trying to find things within them, you said it's shadow work, right? So are these physical manifestations that you're seeking? Are these energetic wounds like imposter syndrome or people pleasing or masking? Are these unprocessed emotions? What exactly are we trying to seek and find within somebody?
Well, they can be any of those things. So basically I'm looking at the blueprint of their body. I'm trying to, but and then they just show up as like a scrunch, like a detour, almost like the energy goes around it instead of through. And that's where the trauma is. So far I've only really detected it one solid time, but when I asked where it was, I felt it in my body. I didn't see it in their body, but I knew instantly it was theirs.
How are you seeing when you're having a session with someone? Okay, are you talking to them? Like, are you working out through things? Like, walk me through a session so I can kind of get a better handle on what you're doing.
I don't talk the whole time. I mean, they're laying like on a massage table, and I'm having them resource to kind of ground themselves. And then I'm just kind of at their feet initially so that they can, I'm waiting for them to kind of relax to where they're like kind of when you're in meditation and you're just getting into it where you know your body relaxes. I'm waiting for that point, and
Okay.
then I'm moving to a hold either at their crown or at their side or at their sacral, um and I'm just kind of using different holds to see what kind of comes up.
Are you
So
running your hands over their body, or are you just holding your hands by their head and then going through their circuitry systems? Are you going through their meridian lines,
yeah,
their
so
chakras? What are we going through to detect?
well, yeah, so basically what I'm trying to perceive their aura. I'm trying to see their blueprint, so their chakras and stuff. And yeah, so I mean, I'm trying, but I don't always see it. It's kind of hit or miss right now. Like
Okay.
sometimes I see the aura, sometimes I don't. But I've seen like so one time this girl's heart was beating in her stomach, and when I acknowledged it was in her stomach and not her chest, it rose from under her shirt. Like it was like this, like her heart was under her shirt. I could see the whole outline, and it was beating out of her body.
Okay, so we saw that very clearly.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
I'm not like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. And I just sat there and just watched it. I mean, just kind of waited.
Are we trying to quantumly pull these things up out of their body
I
without
mean,
without having because there's different ways to heal. Okay, so the way that I do my healings is I will verbally conversate with somebody, and that is how I pull trauma energy out of somebody's body, like I was doing with your 4-year-olds. Okay.
mhm.
And then there's other practitioners like Reiki, light language, quantum healers that just pull that up out of it without actually conversating with said person, because not everybody needs that, and it's applicable in different
Yeah,
capacities.
I'm not really talking to them continuously. I'm just kind of, if I'm noticing that they're really twitching or they're grimacing or, you know, their body's doing something it wasn't just doing, I'll maybe say, because I'll ask them what their resources in the beginning, like it could be the ocean or the river or whatever. I'll just be like, are you at the river? You know, are you on the, so I just try to kind of reground them. But I'm not like talking continuously to them at all, you know, just kind of checking in.
Okay. Is that what you want to do, like moving forward? Is that because you don't necessarily have to be a practitioner that's speaking to people, you can do the other, right? Is that what you want to do moving forward? That way I have a
I
better
mean, that's how
sense of,
I'm being trained to do it. So, I mean, I guess for now, yes, that's how I would do it.
okay. I mean, is that how you want to do it? That's a different question.
My
Okay,
dogs are
yes.
crazy.
Okay, we're back. Okay, go ahead.
I haven't really thought about doing it differently, I guess, because I'm still kind of learning. So I haven't really thought about how I would modify it yet. I haven't given that much thought.
Which one of those things do you think that you would prefer? Just hypothetically.
Okay. I don't know.
Do you like feedback?
Yeah, but I kind of need quiet to to at least at this point, I need quiet to kind of sense it and figure it out. So if there was constant talking, I don't know if I would miss a lot. I don't know.
Mhm. What are we trying to seek within these persons? I know that you told me earlier, but I want you to verbalize it again because your higher self wants me to sift through your vibration while you're speaking through it. That makes
Okay.
sense.
So it's healing people, but it's mainly working with their shadows to just bring to the surface what's ready to be transmuted. But you're not necessarily going into it to fix anything. You're just holding the space or creating the space for healing to happen. You're getting them out of the fight or flight, and you're allowing their body to relax so that they can heal, so healing can take place.
So then why are you trying to find things in their body if you're not the one that's pulling them out and you're just creating the sacred space for them to do it themselves? And
Well,
that's not right or wrong or asking,
yeah.
it's just there
Well,
is a root causation misalignment here between this modality and you as a practitioner. Like there's something that's not clinked in intentionality wise. Like there's something that's like off frequency and vibration of like intentionalities between,
so
if that
so
makes sense.
something's not getting.
Kind of. We're gonna dig into it a little bit more. So if you're creating the space for them to do their own kind of, oh, are you still there? Hey, are you there? I don't know
Yeah,
what is going on with the Zoom. It's probably
I don't
it's
know.
probably the new moon and the eclipse. Like my Zoom always acts funky. Okay.
I know, I'm like,
Yeah, okay. So if you are holding the sacred space for them to be able to heal, it
mhm.
sounds like what you were describing is just creating safe space or sacred space for healing. Why are you trying to extract said thing then?
Well, I think that's going to come later. I don't know that we've learned that part yet, only because part of the training is you have to learn all the nerves of the body, all the ventricles of the brain, all the vertebrae, like so that when you know there's an area of trauma, you can picture it in your head where it is in the body to help it. So right now we're being told we're not fixing anything. We're just holding the space. But I'm assuming that as we get into the second year, that's going to change where we're going to be helping or healing, actively. But I just haven't learned that yet. If
Okay.
that makes so I was told, and separately from this healing, that I have something to do with healing using scrolls from Egypt, and that I'm going to use whatever that knowledge is to help heal people in this lifetime. So I don't know if that's why, like, channeling. So I think channeling is going to be somehow related to this healing, and somehow it's going to be brought together, but I just haven't figured that out.
Okay. So what I am perceiving from this is we have some self-imposed blockages that we have placed on
Okay.
ourselves from, and I don't know anything about this mentorship. I don't know anything about this course, and I don't know anything about this practitioner. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that you are kind of stalling out your abilities that you already inherently possess because we are saying over self, we haven't learned that yet. I'm not ready to do that. And so no wonder you feel very like lost and confused and are not able to see with clarity because you're stalling self.
Okay.
Okay. Your gifts and abilities are already probably more proficient than other people in that class. But because it is a group class, Everybody goes at different paces. Not everybody has the same tools and resources and abilities. And some people are very nervous about messing things up within people's bodies and, all the fears and everything, right?
Yeah.
So when I look at the experience that you're having, I can see where it's, no, I have to wait until we're at this certain point in this class in order to be able to perceive certain things so I don't mess things up. And that's what's creating filter lenses and blockages of you being able to see deeper into people's meridian lines and their chakras, because you probably could be seeing a lot deeper than you are right now. But it's, oh, I didn't learn this in this text yet. So that means I'm not on that level and I need to wait. Otherwise, I might do something and mess something up over here. But what are you going to mess up pulling trauma out of people's bodies? I mean, it might stir up some
Well, it could
like
activate.
yeah. Oh, sure. It could definitely activate it. I mean, processing through things is very activating. It is. Maybe we need to be practicing on people outside of that mentorship so we can see the full totality and vastness of what we're actually able to do without the fear of something happening in that mentorship.
Okay.
Because I think you'd probably be able to see a lot more than you actually are giving yourself credit for.
Okay.
Okay. My question would be, are you looking for crystalline energy in somebody's body and their meridian lines? Is that where you're looking to pull out? Because you can get even more specific than that. Okay. So one type of practitioner might be like, I'm just pulling out crystalline energy. Another practitioner like myself, I'd be like, no, I'm looking for imposter syndrome. I'm looking for masking. I'm looking for people pleasing. I am looking for specificity with what is blocking people. Like that's how I found what was going on with your 4-year-old. Because I said, okay, well, this is what's the challenge. How do we get past that? Right? You don't have to be that type of practitioner. You can just pull crystalline energy out of people's body, but it's not going to be super hyper specific, if that makes sense. It's going to be more like, oh no, you have, this going on in your right side over here by your hip, and we're just going to navigate that up and out. So that's my question for you of what exactly are we trying to do here?
Well, I would prefer to be the latter, but it sounds like what we're learning is this is up in your hip and we're going to move that out.
Okay, well, you need to decide as a practitioner what you want to do, because you don't have to just learn from, like, you can teach yourself how to do a lot of these things, but you have to trust yourself to be able to guide yourself and let your higher self take you to where you need to go. So if you want to get to a point where somebody tells you like, hey, I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z. I have all this trapped trauma in my body. When I look at somebody's astral field, I can tell within like 5 seconds what trauma wounds they have and what behavioral patterns, because they're all frequencies that look very similar. Like imposter syndrome feels and looks like one frequency, people pleasing looks like another, SA looks like another. Like they all are different. Okay. So you have to decide, do I want to just do this over here is like a conglomeration, or do I want to get in even deeper? Because you know how when you're just looking at something like very general, it's going to broad stroke healing. When you're looking at something with a hyper focus, you're going to be able to pull that thing up out of the root forever and for good, right? Okay. Otherwise, you may have to keep on coming back and do layer roll type of healing. Not always, but sometimes you have to keep coming back and do layers of crystalline energy. Because, like, okay, let's say that somebody experienced imposter syndrome at 4, 11, 15, 18, 20. Okay. If you're going to go get like Reiki and light language, sometimes you're shaving off layers at a time of that. Whereas if you are doing it with a specificity, you can go in and meet with that 4-year-old where that first started in the first place and clear that out.
And that's where that DNA stuff would come in.
Well, that goes even deeper. Because now we're getting to like ancestral, generational. You're going for the way back.
Okay.
And we're doing like modifications.
Okay.
So that's cool. You could do a lot of timeline healing, and there's a lot of different applications that can be found there. But again, That's a gift of specificity. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Because somebody might have mother wounds and that's been running through their matriarchal side for like a long time. And you can do some genetic modification so that maybe that doesn't pass on to their daughter
Okay.
moving forward, right? If they choose to have, children or what have you. And people's DNA, like even if they already have children, yes, they're two separate people, but there's like etheric, energetic cords that run between like mother and daughter. So it doesn't always have to be like before birth, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So, I know that's a lot. Okay. But
Yeah.
we really need to ask ourselves, where am I going to take this? What is my ultimate goal? What do I want to be able to do with this gift? Because right now you're kind of just in limbo. It's like I'm waiting for everybody
Well,
in this class to kind of, and me myself. Okay, well, what do I want to do within this?
well, I agree that I am kind of like waiting to see what I'm learning next or what's gonna, but at the same time, I feel like I don't even have the basics down.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can hear, voices in my head to say, I don't know, you need to do this or whatever. And I know that it's my higher self, but I can't willingly start a conversation with my higher self and hear a conversation. Like that's where I want to be. And like I feel like
What does that have to do with your gift?
because isn't that what's going to guide me?
Yeah, that's your higher self. Why is your higher self telling you about this person? Okay. You need to be talking to that person's higher self.
Okay, but I need
Okay,
to be
you
able to
can't talk to
hear, feel.
there's different ways that we can do this. Okay, what your higher self is saying that would be beneficial for you. Oh my gosh, my camera. Okay. So when are you okay on time, by the way? Do you need to
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay. When you are a seeker, okay, when you have that type of archetype, the more specific that you can be, the easier it's going to be for you to find things. When there's a vagueness and an ambiguity, you get lost in the sauce. I am also that type of healer, which I'm like, tell me something very specific, and I will always find it. If
Okay.
you just kind of let me, whatever, anything could come through, and it's just not as clear and precise with my channeling.
Okay.
So one of the things that your higher self is suggesting is let's come up with 20 different trauma wounds that somebody could experience.
Okay.
Imposter syndrome, people pleasing, manipulation, narcissism, love bombing, whatever that somebody could experience. Okay. And we need to create some type of symbol chart of when I experience imposter syndrome when I'm giving people scans, this is what I want to see, or this is what I want to feel. So imposter syndrome, maybe we see someone wearing a monocle. Okay.
So what exactly is imposter syndrome? When you
Imposter
think
syndrome is when, so imposter syndrome is when you are really good at something and you still don't believe in yourself.
Oh, okay.
People think imposter syndrome typically means like, oh, I don't have these skills and these tools in order to do XYZ over here, which most often people do have those talents and abilities, but they second guess and question themselves. And then they never
Okay.
put themselves in situations to prove themselves.
Okay.
Or if you want to say, okay, if I see, yeah, you give me one. What was something that you would want to see in somebody's field?
Like a symbol for
Like a trauma wound, something that
uh
caused trauma in their body.
uh I don't know. Like anxiety or is that's not a trauma wound. That's
Oh no, that could definitely be a trauma wound because you got
okay.
cortisol and all this stuff dumping into your body for sure. Anxiety
Okay.
can definitely be one. Okay, what kind of anxiety? What caused the anxiety?
Um
Like parental anxiety, environmental anxiety? Is it
Yeah, from childhood anxiety.
okay?
Like,
Childhood anxiety. Okay. What kind of childhood anxiety?
well, I'm thinking of someone in particular, and due to how he was raised, it created really awful anxiety in his adult life.
Do you know about some of those experiences?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll take one of those experiences because there's so many different childhood anxiety experiences that could be
Oh,
happening for different reasons, and that's going to create different frequencies within people and
okay.
different wounds. Okay, so this is where I'm talking about specificity. Okay, because it's going to help you be able to pinpoint that frequency a lot
Okay.
easier. Okay,
So there could
let's
be a million symbols for anxiety
yeah, but we're
depending
just
on.
gonna start. Yeah, we're just gonna start with
Okay.
like 20 generalized, like imposter syndrome, people pleasing,
Okay.
SA, like all these different things, just real broad stroke general. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then we are going to create symbols for those or colors.
Mm-hmm.
If you see colors, like however you visualize things. And we are going to ask to be shown those the next time that we're in a scan with somebody. And that's going to
Oh,
give
okay.
a little bit more of a tangible way for you to decipher what's going on in somebody's body. And then you can also do that with, because the body is like a big system. It's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
big system. So maybe we chunk it into an upper body, a middle body, and a lower body, and we give each one of them a color, or we give each one of them a number, like 1, 2, 3, and kind of work in like not quadrants, but because that's 4, but you know what I mean? Okay.
Okay.
Again, specificity. Is it in the upper body, the abdomen, the lower body? And give those numbers, colors, or sounds, however you want to perceive that. And just make
Okay.
it to where it's easier for you to, because everybody's got these major stroke things for the most part. Like everybody has dealt with imposter syndrome or parents yelling at them
Mm-hmm.
or gaslighting
Mm-hmm.
everybody. Okay. So that's why I'm saying broad stroke to begin with, because then you'll definitely be able to have this stuff come through.
Okay.
Do you see how that has nothing to do with your higher self?
Yes.
It's great if your higher self is there and helping you and being a chatty Cathy and talking you along. We don't even trust ourselves that much yet to
Okay.
do that. So we need to give ourselves a little bit more tangible feedback. And then once you start seeing that working, that's when those channel lines open up a little bit more and you say, oh, wait a minute. I do think that I can trust myself. I can trust this intangible thing over here that I can't see this person that's trying to speak with me. And we need to remind our inner child, that 4-year-old, when you're scanning people, you're safe. I love you. We are not going to get stuck in their body. Actually, how fun would it be for you to help me with this? You're a healer too. Okay. And you
Mm-hmm.
can ask her, what do you want these symbols to be?
Okay.
What do you want them to look like? And they don't have to be scary. Imposter syndrome doesn't have to be uh, a demon. Okay, not saying no, like no, but it could be a unicorn. It doesn't have to be something scary. Unicorns are healing. Like I want to see a unicorn if somebody has imposter syndrome.
Okay.
Okay, questions about that?
No, that's good advice.
Now, if you want to get to this place of being able to be very specific with your type of healings, that means you're going to have to do some like real deep diving into all these trauma wounds. You're going to have to understand what they mean and how they affect others.
Okay.
This means that we are going to have to spend some time researching what does it mean to have imposter syndrome? How does that show up in people's lives? What are the different types that one can experience? Where does that come from? The more that you understand something, the easier it is going for you to be able to pinpoint that within somebody else.
Okay.
Okay. I have spent a very long time studying those things, all of those wounds, but I'm very good at finding them within other people. But that's because I understand them at a very deep level.
Okay.
So if that's where you're trying to go, that's what I would suggest.
Okay. And how did you get there? Like reading books or?
Reading books, watching thousands of hours worth of YouTube. I have a psychology background, so I started there. I worked at mental health clinics. You don't have to do all that. It's just the path that I went, right? But really, YouTube University,
Okay.
doing healing on yourself. We
What's
can
that?
we can only go in with others how deep we've gone in ourselves. So once you apply those things to yourself of like, where am I experiencing these broad stroke things in my life and going in to heal you, very easy to spot in others then.
Okay.
Okay, how confident do we feel with the symbol application?
No, I think that's doable. Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Yes. Okay. Then we can get a little even more specific because there's subcategories of imposter syndrome and people pleasing and masking and SA and like all these different things. But let's just start broad stroke to begin with. Okay. Excuse me. Okay. Questions about, hold on. Your higher self is trying to chime in here. Okay. I am going to send you some videos that will help you perceive into someone's DNA.
Okay.
Not right now. It will help you eventually.
Okay.
Okay. I used to listen to a lot of videos that were kind of way out from where I was at in time and space, but it was prepping and priming me for that. And so I'm going to send you some that will help you in those areas. Even if you don't understand what they're saying, even if they're talking in light language or whatever it is, it's going to help your energy field prep for that time.
Okay.
Okay. Any research that you want to do on DNA would be beneficial. Or ancestral clearing, generational trauma clearing, because those are things that you can do within that umbrella of that gift.
Okay.
That might also be a way that you learn how to access people's different incarnations, because I have my own DNA in this incarnation. And let's say I was Sarah over here. She has her own DNA sequencing, but we have the same overarching Akasha field. So you could technically astral project yourself through my DNA into Sarah's DNA and get information about her from the different timelines. That's a little bit deeper in. Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Any more questions?
I don't think so. I mean, not at the moment, anyway.
Your higher self wants to remind you to not stifle yourself just because you're not at the curriculum place in the course. And if that means that you need to find some practice partners outside of the mentorship that you can really just go in with and unleash that ability and that gift without the fear of, something like drastic happening. Sometimes you need to put yourself in a situation to prove to yourself what you're capable of doing. And it honestly, in this mentorship, sounds like there's a lot of containers and parameters, and it's really like tight, and it's making you second guess yourself, and it's you putting your own filter lenses on yourself.
I think that might be just me doing that.
It may be, it might not be the course, but I mean, if you have teachers and mentors that are saying, don't fix anything, okay, which is
Yeah.
fine. I get it. I get it. Okay. We do not want a whole bunch of spiritual babies in there that don't know what they're doing. Okay. And activating the heck out of people, because that's real, because it's very activating to pull trauma stuff up out of somebody's body. So you as a practitioner, like if that's something that you're concerned about, then maybe you need to do some research about how do I navigate somebody having an activated central nervous system? How do I talk them through that? How do I make them feel safe and calm and secure? So maybe that's an area that we need to tighten up on. Like if that's a fear of ours, but you're not a baby spiritual. This is not your first rodeo. And you know that. Okay, even if it feels like that, like inherently, like in your soul, like, yeah, this is not it, right? So is it you somewhat maybe, but is it also the container that you're in of being told like, let's not do that right now?
Yeah.
And then we don't want to rock the boat or upset, or, we don't want to be chastised. We don't want to be persecuted. We don't want to be told, like, well, who gave you the right to do that? Which I get. It's their ship, it's their parameters, it's their mentorship. That doesn't mean that you can't be doing stuff over here.
Okay.
What comes up when I say that?
No, that's very true. Yeah.
I definitely think that you need to be practicing on energy healers, because they're going to be easier for you to read. People that are like further into their journey. Okay. I have academy students that you can practice on. I think I mentioned that to you before, actually. If you want to practice on them, they would love that. Okay.
Okay.
And they're awake. A lot of them already have their own businesses and things, so it'd be easier to read. I have other people that you can contact too if you want to have practice partners. But I think that would be really beneficial for you to step outside of the constraints of what you're in right now and like really showcase, like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this.
Okay. Yeah, that would be great.
With the Egyptian thing,
Mm-hmm.
have you ever heard of Sekhem Reiki?
And I don't know.
Okay. It is a specific form of Egyptian healing. I think that there might be something there for you. I'm going to send you some resources.
Okay.
And if you like it, great. If not, you don't have to listen to it, but your higher self was like, oh, send her those videos. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. What was your biggest takeaway today?
Well, I mean, I'm surprised by the DNA thing. And I'm still kind of trying to be like, I don't know what I'm going to do with that.
Well, yeah, and that's stuff that will unfold when it's time and download in, right? We're kind of far away from that in vibration and frequency right now, but you need to know about it so you know where to head, and your higher self and your etheric body know.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, can you tell how far away I am with like actively channeling? I mean, is that like, I've just been so frustrated for, people tell you, oh, you just want it too badly, so stop focusing on it. So you stop focusing on it, but you get excited about it, or you see something, you're like, oh, and now it's time, but then it's, I don't know, I don't know
what does channeling mean to you?
I don't know. I just feel like it's something that I need to be able to do in order to continue.
What's your definition of channeling though? If you say like, I don't know, it's just something I need to do. Again, if we have a gift that requires specificity, because that's the type of magic that we hold, what does channeling mean to you? What does that look like? Because channeling means a million bajillion different things to different people. Channeling means one thing to me, but some of my other friends, it means something completely different to them. So what are we heading towards? What do we want to be able to do? What does that look like? What is the goal? Because right now we're kind of just ambiguous, and it's just we're waiting for something to happen when it's what am I trying to achieve here? What do I want it to look like? What are the parameters? And it doesn't have to be forever parameters, but what is the next step that I'm trying to achieve here? Like, what do I want to happen?
Well, I want to use it to help heal people, to use it with this biodynamic cranial sacral, to get information from their higher self, or from
to help them
from their body.
Right. Okay. That's very specific. That's very specific. Okay. That's why your higher self downloaded in, let's do a symbol chart, because that is a very specific form of channeling, and I can give you specific instructions. Because channeling is all encompassing, is a big umbrella. There's so many different things, so many different modalities, so many different things that you can tap into. So we need to figure out what is it precisely. And then you get instructions of let's do a symbol chart. And that's going to help us, right? That is a form of channeling. When you are frequency reading somebody and you're finding crystalline energy in their body and you're pulling that out, that's channeling just as much as somebody that's talking to a pet that has passed on to the other side. But two very different channels with different parameters. So that is probably some more deep diving that you need to do within yourself. What else do I want to be able to do specifically outside of just that gift?
Well, I wanted to, I mean, I'm talking about channeling. I wanted to, I mean, I don't know if, I'm sorry, my dogs are going crazy.
It's okay. I love dogs.
I wanted to try to bring forward past life or other incarnation information because I have an interest in herbalism for healing.
Okay.
And I've been told that that's also been in my past. So in trying to learn all these herbs and what each of them do and all this, I just thought if there was a way to tap into past knowledge that it would just make it easier. So that's why.
What do you want to do with herbalism?
I maybe want to help people in menopause or with hormonal issues, or just maybe not even that specific, maybe just healing in general to kind of get away from Western medicine. Even curing my kids' cough, or I have the basics down, but there's just so much that you can learn, or so many directions you could go in. I don't know. But specifically hormonal.
So are you trying to get a hold of a different incarnation so she can download that information for you without having to recall it with this incarnation's knowledge and wisdom of like, hey, can you just imprint this into my mind?
Well,
because that might not be, if you do have a different incarnation, that even if you do have an herbalist in your, whatever, that might always be something that they specialized in.
That's true.
Because like I can have a Reiki practitioner in my thing, but there's also holy fire, there's Kundalini, there's like a billion different Reikis that you can have, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where we have to kind of get a little bit more specific and figure out what exactly it is that we want to be doing, and then put a call out of, do I have anybody out there that is able to help me with X, Y, and Z? Because it also doesn't have to be yeah. Oh no, that's definitely possible. And you don't even have to have somebody on your spirit team, your different incarnations. There's lots of cosmic beings that will come and help you that have that gift. It doesn't have to be just somebody from your own field. But if you can get specific about what you want to do, you can get somebody a lot easier to come in to be on your team. But it's, what are we doing here? Yes.
Okay.
So I would spend some time curating, what does the next chapter look like? What exactly do I need support with? How am I going to apply this with my clientele? Why do I want to do this? Kind of how like you and I fleshed out, like, okay, actually, I want to be kind of helping people more like with specific things and pulling it up out of their body so we can get in there at the deeper roots. But that's us working that out, of going deeper and deeper and deeper of why and how. Does that make sense? Same application with the herbalism.
Yeah. Okay.
I would focus on getting good with your symbolism charts and getting some practice partners outside, because right now, definitely want to do past life stuff. We need some more tangibility of what we can do already, and where our inner child doesn't feel so scared of getting lost in the etheric sauce and proving to ourselves, oh, wait a minute, my abilities are way more than I actually thought that they were. Because the window for you to be able to perceive past lives back here, that thing ain't open right now. Because we're not even open right now with our own gifts on this 3D plane. Does that make sense? Like we need to, it's baby steps sometimes that we have to take. Just kind of how we talked about, here's you as a human 3D, here's imagination, and here's astral travel. If you're not even in imagination yet, how are you going to get over here? Same thing with, this is you, these are your current spiritual gifts. How are you going to get over here to past lives if we're not trusting this over here yet? Because that's way further out as far as belief system. Does that make sense?
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Not that you can't do it or you can't perceive it, just in my general, I was not able to perceive any past life stuff until I started working with my inner children, because they were closer to me in my experience, and I needed to be able to astrally and etherically work with something that had memories and that was more tangible to me in this lifetime. And then all of a sudden, all of this past life stuff opened back up here. Same kind of thing with you of, I need to get a little bit more solid with the gifts that I have right now and showing myself, oh, these are real. I can do this. Oh, okay. Well, then I believe that I can do this over here. Okay, what comes up when I say that?
You said that I had to, well, you were just talking about the imagination piece. You said that I don't know if you said I don't have one, but I need to work on it.
Yes.
Is that with interacting with my inner child?
It could be. It doesn't have to be necessarily.
Piece?
It can be with it can be with manifesting, like things that you want to bring in, like with goals. It's creating a inner scape, creating experiences, birthing something from nothing within like your mind's eye, and just playing around in those fields. That opens up your perceptual awareness of being able to get to things that are further out in the Akasha realms. If you don't feel safe to be in imagination, which is like fundamental, that's inner child stuff. That's coming back to our true creator self. That other astral stuff out in the Akasha, that's going to be much harder for you to access, because there's even more of an intangibility to that. Imagination's in your own mind. It's here. It's very solid and dense, even though it's, imagination. But going out here, that's even further. Like the concepts are so much further out than imagination, because there's so many more nuances to that. There are, well, what if I get lost? What if a ghost or a demon comes through? What if, there's so many like fear-based things, and you have to, like, when you are in your imagination, you're still using your physical senses. You're still using your mind, you're using your nose, you're using your ears, you're like all of your physical body apparatus or apparati. When you are out in the astral and the ethers, it has nothing to do with your physical body. You are detached from those things. So if you cannot even play in your imagination with your physical senses, your body is not going to allow you to astral and etherically travel out into the Akasha that far. Does that make sense? Like your central nervous system is going to prevent you from doing that. Because when I go, when I'm in imagination and I'm just playing around manifesting and doing all these things, I'm still very present in my physical. When I am going into somebody's Akasha fields before I channel, like for you, before I got on here, I am completely detached from my physical body. I am not even presently aware that I am in my physical vessel. Like I know I'm there, and I've built so much trust that I know I'm going to snap back when I get done. But I astral projected to the tundra in a memory with your inner childs. I was in a completely different dimensional plane. The only way that I was able to get there was feeling safe to be in my imagination with my physical senses first. Because my inner children were so scared just to even be in our imagination. Because we were told magic's evil, it's not real, there's going to be witches and demons that come for us, I'm going to get hurt, I'm not going to be able to get back in my body. There's no way I was going to astral travel at that point. So I had to really play in my imagination to help them feel safe and my central nervous system feel safe to let go of my physical body so that I can astral project and astral travel. That's why you had so many issues not being able to go further out, because your central nervous system is overriding what's happening. So imagination is a safe place to be first.
Okay.
Because we still feel like we're in our body. It's like, no, I can sit here and be in my mind's eye and still feel my arms. When you're astral traveling, you're gone. Okay. That's why I say, or why you're not me, but your higher self said we need to really be playing in our imagination a little bit more. And one of the ways that you can do that is through that symbol chart. Like going in there and saying, like, what does imposter syndrome feel like? What kind of symbol do I want with this? And like really bringing it up in your mind's eye and making it as vivid as you can. That's safe because we're still in our physical body and we're imagining,
Okay.
right? But it's still getting a little bit deeper into the Akasha because it's like, okay, well, I'm going to slightly project when I'm doing healings on people. Like I'm not going fully in there, just a little bit. Okay. So that'll be a good way to tiptoe into it.
Okay.
Okay. Does that make sense with the imagination and then
Okay.
the difference between like astral projecting out of your body?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Sometimes we just got to baby
Yes.
step.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. I'm going to send you your oracle cards and your crystal grid, and then I will send you your replay as well. And I appreciate letting me read for you.
Okay.
It was an honor.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to hear how your symbol chart goes. Keep me updated.
All right.
And if
I
you need
will.
practice partners.
Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
You have a lovely evening.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right. Bye.
You too. Thank you. Bye.